The United Nations highlight all of these ISO assets. Let's get into why it matters to you. Consider smashing that like. This is a major update. Let's jump into it. First is from our brother in the space once again, the one and only Smoke. What does he have here? Well, we're going to start off with this. I shared this lady before, Alenka Graylish over at Salent. Some people pronounce it Salent. What's mentioned here? Well, Swift, Cybos, XRP, and XLM will play a significant role in the flywheel adoption of cryptocurrencies. In this comprehensive outline, we'll get into Quant, XTC, Algorand, Hedera. It's jam-packed with it all. XTC. So we do see here XRP plus XLM, Swift knows. The shadow knows. Listen closely. 2 minutes and 20 seconds. We'll jump back here in a brief bit. Here we go.
The front office is automated. There's low latency. Then you switch gears. Banks operate still typically in terms of batch processing, store and forward, and payments, messaging, clearing, and settlement are often decoupled and can take days. This dichotomy is just unsustainable. And in response, we're seeing and hearing at Cybos how a number of FIs and FI-backed consortiums are harnessing blockchain, smart contracts, digital assets to align the performance of banking and payment systems with those of the digital economy. The second takeaway, I'd say, is that the Internet of Value is beginning to crystallize. And let me start with a framework. Let's think of the old industrial flywheels that take a lot of energy to make a half turn and a full turn. But once they start turning, there's momentum and it's hard to stop them. So let's overlay adoption of blockchain and digital assets. They've proven value. So part of the first turn, feasibility, certainly. And now we're seeing these use cases get into the bottom of that first turn, economic viability. And there's some exciting initiatives we heard about at Cybos around interbank payments, delivery versus payments, for example, correspondent banking, messaging, cross-border, interbank, intrabank, intra-company, and importantly, when we get to the ESG, the S part, remittances. So lots of interesting energy there. And we're seeing cryptocurrencies like XRP, Stellar Lumens, and stablecoins like USDC playing an important role in getting that wheel to turn and deliver the Internet of Value.
Yes, mentioning specifically XRP and also Stellar with XLM delivering some of these things when it comes to Internet of Value. In another video I did recently, Danelle Dixon specifically mentioned Internet of Value once again, and she pointed out the importance for standards. That was really eye-opening, right? Jump more into this. What else do we have? Well, let's share this other one from Smoke, and then after that, we're going to get into some key research from myself. So, look what's mentioned here. United Nations highlights Ripple and Stellar in the future financial system. This clip comes from a United Nations Capital Development Fund webinar. They describe an open and regulated payment internetwork that allows payments to anyone, anywhere, on any network, emphasizing interoperability. Ripple and Stellar are directly mentioned and clearly shown in the international payments diagram as central parts of the global payments network. Check mark. Watch closely. We're going to do just that. This one's under 1 minute, and then we'll come back for some more commentary. Here we go.
All of the existing networks. And this is kind of what it would look like. It's not a new system, but it connects existing systems. So no matter whether it is incumbents like Swift, Visa, MasterCard, or some of the newer networks like Ripple, Stellar, Celo, a payment should be able to go from one to another. So we see this happening in 3 phases. The first is account addressing. So this is a global directory that would allow you to address a payment in the same way you have an email address. The second is tokenized compliance, reducing or rather finding efficiencies in compliance to reduce the cost. And the third is real-time settlement of funds. So all of the existing
Notice what he said about real-time settlement of funds. All right, a little bit more about this, because again, you see in the visual UN on that exploratory paper, okay? Let's jump into the next key area. What about Quant's role? Now, I did a video about this 4 months ago with Channing in our collaboration, where we go in depth with yet another key finding regarding Quant, the United Nations, and China. I won't play the whole thing because that's a super deep dive. You'll see an end screen card about that if that's your thing. That's 42 minutes, right? But Channing and I get into the nitty-gritty about this. And so, if anything, listen to the Quant connection regarding the specific United Nations connection. I've gone ahead and fast forward to this key area as well. We're going to play this and jump back in roughly 2 or 3 minutes, give or take. Here we go. The talk about the United Nations, and of course we'll kick it over to Channing. In the findings, you see here that we mention ITUT, especially the gentleman from China. Well, interesting to see that the International Telecommunication Union, actually this blows up a tad bit more, okay? They basically are a telecommunications standardization sector. They're one of 3 sector and branches of the International Telecommunication Union, the ITU, responsible for coordinating standards for telecommunications and information communication technologies. This thing called X509 for cybersecurity. Oh, gee, I wonder why Quant would have some kind of role in that. Maybe because Gilbert Verdin has 20 plus years in cybersecurity. Just saying. And look at this. H.264, MPEG, video compression, and so on. Jesse talked about some of this stuff about how big video, right? It's that data and going from the era of the 90s to where we're at now. So all that had to be standardized, right? Now here's what gets really interesting. Their headquarters in Geneva, Switzerland. Well, we also know the BIS is over there too. We also know in our findings some of this. And I want to pull this up. What about the whole mention of, for example, the United Nations? And this is very eye-opening. It mentions, basically speaking, that you have the highlight above. It's not highlighted, and it is now. And it's the international standards that are produced by the ITUT, referred to as recommendations, with a word capitalized to distinguish its meaning from the common parlance sense of the word recommendation. As they become mandatory, think about that term, mandatory, only when adopted as part of the national law. So we're talking about laws, mandates. How many times do we talk about ISO 222 mandates? How many times do we talk about XDC when it comes to electronic bills of lading, the Electronic Documents Act, basically, right? So again, acts are laws. So since the ITUT is part of the ITU, which is a United Nations specialized agency, its standards carry more formal international weight, look at that, than most of other standards development organizations that publish technical specifications of a similar form. So we have, of a similar form. That is absolutely something else, to say the least, right? And of course, I would encourage you to watch the entire deep dive if you choose to do so. But let's get more into some other key findings. Let's reference Gilbert the GOAT, Gilbert Verdin, who's part of my Mount Rushmore of the most important people in blockchain and distributed ledger technologies. He stated back on August 5th, 2020, look how this matches up, ladies and gentlemen, and join the DLT Interoperability Workshop from ITU. And if you're wondering who they are, again, just to pound it home, oh, no big deal. Maximus Crypto just confirming the research. Once again, UN Agency for Digital Tech, connecting the world through spectrum management, brokering standards, bridging digital divide, Secretary General over at ITU SecGen. Okay, that's important. Very relevant with what we are doing as in Quant and ISO standards with TC307, because that's literally their standard made by this gentleman, Gilbert Verdian, to progress standards through collaboration. Wow. And even when we blow it up more, ITU events, distributed ledger technology, those meetups, again, DLT interoperability, and the other one, who do you see as far as participants? Gilbert Verdian. I have shared Noah Luo before. Thomas Harjano is key participant there. These things are always worth sharing and mentioning. And on top of that, the internet datagram, multiple routes that was shared from MIT. And as we know, Thomas Harjano, his key plug to that. And we see obviously this MIT connection, networks using some of this RIP routing, so on and so forth. Jump into the next part. Lessons learned from internet architecture, interoperability fundamental to survivability. View each blockchain as a bounded and independent system, autonomous systems paradigm, standardized basic transaction format, alternative business models, subscription, peering agreements, the SLA. And again, you see how it all comes together with this peering between blockchains. You also see this, the peering model, when it comes to specifically gateways. What kind of role would obviously Quant Network with their API gateways play a key role moving forward? And the other areas, blockchain reliability issues, again, the data transactions, the confirmations, and so on. And then a little bit more about this. These particular blockchain systems. I think it's funny how you see a lot of talk about peers. What about peer-to-peer? Application X, application Y. Again, why do they take all the liberty to put this together? Because in conclusion, like it says, designing for survivability is designing for scale. Interoperability is crucial for survivability. Blockchain systems are autonomous systems. Nodes slash clients, I should say, must be identifiable and authenticable. That's very important. And peering model, again, those contracts. Think about Quant with all their contracts. So this goes on and on and on, right? There's many pages about this. In fact, I think that's the second to the last one. But the other area I want to jump into is actually, this last part. Internet architecture. Do not forget the whole key thing of MIT with Internet Engineering Task Force. And again, even Quant Network labeled as being part of the mix of pioneers. And again, this is so important because the bottom part, variety of networks accommodate a variety of networks. Yeah, because Quant Network is what? The network of networks. David Clark, the design philosophy of the DARPA Internet Protocols, dating back to August 1988. Again, The Economist magazine, The Rising Phoenix, 1989, give or take. David Schwartz, his specific patents for distributed ledger technologies long before Bitcoin, decades before Bitcoin. Get more into this. Let's pound it home more about the Quant connection with specifically ITU. No big deal. They just pointed out before, I guess in 2017, happy birthday to the United Nations. We're proud to be part of the UN family. Yes, part of the UN family. Boil it, mash it, stick it in stew. Helping to connect the world. That's profound. All right. How about this? XDC, simple Google search. What is their connection to the United Nations? The XDC United Nations connection refers to the XDC network adoption of the United Nations Commission on International Trade Law, UN CITRAL, model law on electronic transferable records, MLETR, to modernize global trade. You want to learn more about MLETR? Tokenizer is literally your guy. Seriously. Probably the best who has put it together. He's literally your guy. He's got tons of guides about that on his X. By aligning with this UN-backed legal framework, XDC Network has established a compliant way to create and transfer digital trade documents, such as letters of credit, bills of lading, on its blockchain. Yes, on its blockchain. This allows for more efficient, cost-effective, secure international trade processes that are legally recognized in countries that adopt MLETR. And again, constant references about the legal framework, the digital documents, the benefits of compliance, implementation, and global adoption. This area I want to highlight. benefits of compliance, because a lot of you guys, nothing against most of you, there might be a new person that will come here and they'll say, I've seen this stuff about ISO 222, but I really don't get it. Well, think about this. The benefits of compliance. This transition, let me highlight this, to a digital system significantly reduces processing times, costs associated with paper-based systems, and the risk of fraud. Again, think about Quant's role in this. They are the internet of what? Trust. There's so many different layers to the internet. And if you are able to wrap your head around what benefits there are, whether it's the internet of value, internet of trust, and so on, you will draw your conclusion about what protocols stand out the most when it comes to some of these key findings. And of course, there's the implementation of it all, right? As we jump further into this, shout out again to our brother in space, Smoke, doing it big as usual. He reported a few days ago on the 22nd how XDC has a handshake with the Byzantine Agreement Protocol. A few deep dives back, I put in some significance about BFT once again, but Federal Reserve approved it. It's documented, and if anything, let's share this once again. Seeing is believing sometimes. We see here mandatory information on principal law, adverse impacts on the climate, and other environmental related adverse impacts of the consensus mechanism. This is cited from CCRI, and in the findings, you do see specifically the name of the crypto asset. They literally highlight XDC network. The consensus mechanism is the Byzantine fault tolerant BFT. These things are so important because even though this isn't highlighted right here, hopefully you see my little magnifying glass. Unlike open networks where anyone can participate, as in proof of work or proof of stake, BFT and similar mechanism operate with known vetted participants often selected by governing entity. In this example, what? The United Nations and their governance. That's profound. Take a little bit more into this. According to Smoke with the 2025 APEC report, states, quote, promoting the utilization of paperless trade platforms in the post-pandemic era, because I got to be careful with that, because YouTube will have a hissy fit. Oh no, don't want to get thrown in YouTube jail for another week. Highlights XDC Trade Network partnership. And as you see here, XDC, the handshake with paperless trade, fully documented. And as we pull this up, promoting the utilization of paperless trade platforms in the pandemic era. APEC Policy Support Unit, May 2025. Get frustrated, bite my tongue on some key things. Man, violation of free speech, my goodness. Anyway, let's get further into it. As we see here, promoting the utilization of paperless trade platforms in the post-pandemic era. We see here specifically the commercial platforms, right? MineHub, ComGo, TradeFinex, so on. What's important is the highlight. Obviously, TradeFinex, you have, for example, it highlights paid service network utility fees, regional operation, domestic Singapore, year of establishment, 2018. But again, does it mention XDC? It does mention XDC. Linkages with related trade service providers and other trade platforms, and boom, boil it, mash it, stick it in a stew. We have partnered with XDC Trade Network, R3 Quarter, DocuTrade. And guess what? That, the other day I covered that with Quant. That's also highlighted here. That's important. There's another area here that's really important too. MineHub highlights who? Sumitomo. We know about the Ripple connection, and we also know about the Jasmy connection. So honorable mention to Jasmy. Taking further into this, again, why it matters to you. Do we have another example? What about Hedera and the United Nations? Well, in this PDF, which is SB002-call-4 input, HBAR Foundation PDF. I always try to share my resources and so on. I don't know why people don't want to share their research. Are you kidding me? HBAR Foundation points out the whole thing of the response to the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change. I'm not trying to make this divisive. I'm just citing material. Sometimes people get, they'll rip your head off if you mention anything about climate change. But nonetheless, call for input back in 2022, activities involving removals under the Article 6.4 mechanism of Paris Agreement, and call for input 2022, draft requirements for the development of mechanism methodologies. So this is all important, and this all adds up. And again, look it up for yourself. It's literally on page 1 of 5 in regard to that United Nations framework, again, with Hedera HBAR. Literally says it right there. All right. Last but not least, I do want to highlight this. Algorand. I own Algorand. You guys own Algorand. It deserves a proper mention. Numerous sources in regard to this, but we'll cite this from Yahoo Finance. Yahoo Finance reported a while back the UN to train governments on crypto and blockchain in 2026 push. So this is important to mention because let's face it, we're not that far away from 2026. And in the findings, we do see here specifically governments to learn crypto and AI under UNDP's new academy with exponential science, promising transparent ledgers for public funds and digital IDs by 2026. Shout out to Crypto Lulu. Lewis Jackson did an excellent job with his coverage regarding digital IDs. All right. One key thing I want to mention here in regard to a little bit more of UN, as you see here, United Nations Development Program. First thing I want to jump into is actually screams Hedera and screams Quant. Why? Well, they highlight Paulo Tasca. Paulo Tasca, if you're not aware of it and you're new to all of this research and the channel, he is the co-founder of the Quant Network, along with who? Gilbert Verdian. So it says here, according to UNDP Innovation Team Leader Irina Serovich, the Academy represents an opportunity for governments to shift from experimentation to implementation while strengthening transparency, inclusion, and resilience. Similarly, Paulo Tasca, again, executive chairman of Exponential Science, among many other things, right? Like Hedera, obviously, he's a professor at one of the colleges over in England, but described the project as a collective framework to equip governments with the tools and talent needed to manage digital transformation. That's important. What about Algorand? Well, check this out. They highlight Algorand. Additionally, this move follows a similar program in late 2023 when the UNDP joined forces with Algorand Foundation to provide blockchain training for its 22,000 employees, equipping them to apply the knowledge and supporting countries' sustainable development efforts. And again, can the government blockchain academy fast track global blockchain and AI adoption for public good? I think we're already seeing that. I think all this is already built. Actually, we know it's already built. We just need to flip the switch on. And I think regulations, I shouldn't say I think, I know, right? Regulations have to be the key enablers of all of this if you really, really think about it. So again, there might be other connections to the United Nations, but these are the ones that really stood out for me. Let me know the ones that stood out for you. So hopefully you appreciated yet another deep dive from myself, Maximus Crypto. Hey, do me a solid if you really enjoy this material, because if you haven't seen, I put out roughly 4 videos today alone. Why am I doing this? Well, for one, I want to point out that I think it's so important to highlight ISO assets, digital assets, the ones that are compliant, because there's a lot of misinformation. There's channels as we speak telling you there's no, these aren't compliant. But yet when we look at the actual documents compared to seeing somebody say no, 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 when we compare and contrast it all, we do definitely see that there are some compliant ones and so on, because the documents support that when it cites the technologies. Here's some examples in regards to the UN. So I think that's important to share. Again, do me solid if you listen to the entire outline. Again, it just really helps me to see who's paying attention and who isn't. And type in this keyword into the comments, and that is UN, right? That's just 2 letters, UN, as in United Nations. And I'll know that you, yes, you, listen to the entire outline. As the saying goes, know what you have, know why you hold it. The research trumps FUD 110%. May the Lord Jesus bless you all. I truly mean that. Again, check out the Patreon, myself, Rue Black, and Crypto Future 99, Rob. We do collaborations. All 3 communities come together on Thursday night every week for the most part. I haven't really missed one other than when I was out of town. But we come together roughly around 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific, give or take. Okay? We would love to see you guys there. We get into some real key topics. It's unfiltered, no YouTube filter over there. It's really, really cool. So if you want more of that deeper content and want to have more community interaction, check out this card above. It'll take you to the Patreon, and you can check that out if you choose to do so. If it's not your thing, hey, no problem. I really appreciate you guys listening to these outlines. So there you have it. That is the news for today and the research. We'll see you on the next one. Over and out.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
I have many friends that are earning every single day trading futures on BTCC. It's a simple process, and even if you don't want to learn how to trade, you could follow a trader on the site and let him do the trading for you. And again, I'm not trying to have any of you guys use your hard-earned money to lose anything. You don't know what you're doing? Don't jump into this, but there is money to be made, and don't use your nest egg for leverage trading. Use a separate portfolio. But I suggest learn how to trade. Earn you some extra money on BTCC. It's easy. You don't have to KYC, and you don't have to use a virtual private network VPN. This is a wonderful site. They've been around since 2011. Give them a shot. Also, when you earn that extra money, you can store that on your Decent wallet. The Decent wallet was not affected by the XRPL debacle, where the backdoor of many wallets was open and there was a breach. So Decent wallet was not affected by that. Decent wallet is as safe as you keep your seed phrase. It's a wonderful product, and you can get the discount by using the link. It's the only way to get the affiliate discount, and that is to use an affiliate link. So that link is popping up on the upper right side of your screen, and it is the one that you will use. You will also get free shipping. Pick you up a Decent wallet today. Secure your assets. If you don't have them stored in a wallet and sitting on an exchange, then you're at risk. So pick you one up today. Thank you.